There are members of the military now that are basically telling the cadets that that they're on a mission from God now, that there is this break in the separation of church and state, and that what they are essentially supposed to do. I don't have any respect for Hegseth whatsoever. I don't even acknowledge anything that guy does because he's just a puppet anyway.
I think I'm going to start calling him keg breath. Keg breath. I think that just seems better to me. I'm sorry. Continue.
But the point is, we're faced in a situation now where we really, if there is a reason why, again, I did not join, but I came very close when I was 18. And one of the reasons that you end up joining the military in the first place, regardless of which branch, is because I would think for you and for most, it is in defense of our Constitution. That is our document that is more important than any other document outside of the Magna Carta and, of course, the Declaration of Independence. And that's what we believe in. And if you're a Christian or any other denomination, that's fine. But there is a point where you separate the two. And when you completely denigrate the First Amendment by removing the separation of church and state and saying that, no, you're fighting for God, you're not fighting for your Constitution, I would like to think that that's a very big problem. And it is not going to go over well with a lot of members of the military.
Right.
I agree with you, and I hope it's such an open-ended statement. And I fear, though, for the group mentality to be overtaken by a strong voice, or at least a highly appointed voice, and to overpower these undeveloped minds. And I look back, it was one of my other points was that when I was a younger kid, I was there just to execute orders, didn't have a lot of confidence to think for myself, and not a lot of life experience. That being said, this doing this for God narrative is scary when they've got all our military guys cooped up in their own little bases under their thumb. And it really is scary to think they're trying to wield the world's most powerful military in this fashion. So this is very distressing. But I'll go back to my hope that the American youth have progressed and evolved to a point where they're not going to fall for it. And so that's where my hope lies.
My concern, Jen, you had a thought?
I just wanted to respond to Corky Shilley saying in the chat, I think people also join the military due to lack of economic opportunity, damn straight, and especially in certain vulnerable communities. And we've spoken about that. Remember when we had Isaiah on here and he said, yeah, that was our jobs program. That was the jobs program in the neighborhood that he grew up in. So yeah, very much so.
And I also have no doubt that especially with what would be a complete disaster if they even intimated the idea that they were going to implement some type of a draft, that what you're going to see now, which I think is something that's probably become a lot more common than people realize, is they are going to do some type of insane sign-up bonuses to get people to join, make them unconscionable levels of financial guarantees that they'll probably have to pay up front rather than out on the back end. And we all know there are many cases where they get stiffed. But in this case, hey, $100,000, here it is, you join, and et cetera. But this type of language, lawmakers want Department of Defense, Hegseth investigated for biblical Armageddon claims, that they're somehow going to create this second coming of Christ. It's regardless of what you believe, the idea that you would invoke this type of language, to me, says that they don't care one lick about anybody who's serving in the military. They're just grunts, all of them. And they could just be, they're just as you know very well. It's one of the first things you learn when you're in the Marines, when you're going into the combat zone. You're an FNG. You're a fucking new guy. Go to the front line, see if you can hack it for a few weeks. And if you can, then maybe you can survive warfare. If you can't, you're a dead man walking anyway. So there you go. And that's basically what they're telling anybody who's going to walk in there. Hey, get ready to die for our cause, but at least you'll be doing it for the biblical proportions that we're trying to espouse right now. That doesn't seem to be going over too well. I am incensed over this. And I can imagine from your perspective that on the one hand, this is very dangerous language, but on the other hand, they're showing their hand. And that is not going to convince people that they should be joining anyway. They probably are thinking, yeah, maybe it's time that we maybe go in another direction here. Maybe there's a better fate in our lives than dying for this cause. How do you see this unfolding as more of this information comes out?
Man, to see them come completely in line with what I've been scared about all along. This, this is prophecy, and this is how it's just going to be. For that psyop to work on people is so boastful, so what's the word I'm looking for? So confident, but more or less cocky to make such a statement. It's a statement made only with false confidence, only as a con artist can pull off. This can't have any real genuine heart.
They're bombastic beyond comprehension,
and it's just relying on a full-on external, visual, overpowering external sensory to just overwhelm these people and push them into this fight or into this situation. And sadly, it's not hard to do with a bunch of young, full of adrenaline boys who have come to the military for their own purpose and wanting to prove themselves and are ready to listen to anything that they're told. It's a really dangerous system that they've developed, and it's up to me now as a 44-year-old, you, Peter, you, Jen, as adults who have some wisdom to give, and try to warn others of at least tell people what they're up to and what they're trying to do, and that the real meaning behind all this isn't just to defend our country. It's
defend empire.
Provide empire and pad the pockets of these billionaires, feed these military-industrial complex corporations, and it's not for the brave reasons that young men and women step up to the fight for. It's just to pad the pocket, and we are less and less valuable to them, and they're not even trying to hide it anymore. So,
agreed. A complaint shared by an anonymous non-commissioned officer to the Military Religious Freedom Foundation, or the MRFF, claimed that non-commissioned officers were told that the Iran war is part of God's plan and that President Donald Trump was anointed by Jesus to light the signal fire in Iran to cause Armageddon and mark his return to Earth, as originally reported by journalist Jonathan Larson. Between Saturday and through Tuesday afternoon, MRFF logged more than 200 similar complaints across 50 installations encompassing every branch of the military. Its founder, Mikey Weinstein, told military.com. The accusations, which received no direct response from the Pentagon, when inquired by military.com, have drawn widespread attention, in part due to the Pentagon's open embrace of Christianity through monthly prayer services. In addition to appearances and speaking engagements by Defense Secretary, God, just the audacity of having that bastard in that position, Pete Hegseth, at Christian-themed events. MRFF is composed roughly of 95% Christians. On Friday, Congressional Free Thought Caucus co-chairs Representatives Huffman of California and Raskin of Maryland, and House Armed Services Subcommittee on Military Personnel ranking member Christy Houlihan of Pennsylvania led 27 of their Democratic colleagues in requesting U.S. DOD Inspector General Platt Moring III to open an investigation into these reports and claims invoking religious prophecy and apocalyptic theology to justify the U.S. military actions in Iran. Now, if there is any truth to this, which I'm sure there is, you really have to also think, on the other hand, they are digging so deep at the bottom of the barrel to try to convince people that this is a cause worth fighting for, that they really don't have anything else. They're kind of in desperation mode at this point. What do you think?
Being from where I am, I have a lot of friends who are really evangelical or just Protestant Christian folks that buy into this, and they've just thrown their hands up and just say it's fate. And there's that lack of critical thinking about what is at stake with war and how brutal it is, and they just miss all that. They don't care to see that. They don't see Palestinians as human. They don't see Iranians as human. The Arab and Persian culture is just so different than American culture. It's easy to lead them astray with this propaganda to just villainize them, and all that all that separation. Sadly, I know a lot of people who buy into these Christian stories and this long time Christian prophecy, and it is disturbing. But what's the percentage of United States citizens it takes to keep our military running? Like 2%. And so that's a small percent. And with 333 million people, they're going to find these people. And this is not to be a defeatist or a negative guy, but these are it's just sad facts of reality. And with the development of drones with guns and more, I hope that, like in the Terminator 2 movie, humans can beat the machines, man. And that's the fight. That's the fight we're facing. And we've got to be rebels from within and speak against this and fight it. But sadly, I know that there's a lot of Christian people that believe this stuff, don't pay it much more mind, and just take it for the surface value. And it's a real disturbing fact. And I really have gone down some real downward spirals over the last 2.5 years, trying to speak against the genocide, trying to speak against war, sharing my thoughts on that. And the hardest part is hitting a brick wall with a friend that I care and respect about. And that's happened countless times. And that's tough, but it just makes you stronger. And we're not going to give up. And this cause is too important.